What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the Bible Wisdom YouTube channel. Many of us are going through a difficult time, a hard time, and I think it's so important to keep our eyes on heaven. God is allowing some things in our life, but ultimately we know that God gets the victory, and He's going to help us see victory, and I think that's something important to remember. Now, I think in many cases in life, we can feel defeated. We can feel like, I'm not winning this battle, or, you're struggling in some way. But, keeping our eyes on the long term and not the short term, I think is important. Now, I think one of the things that we need to do is operate in love. I know I have seen myself in bad situations. I know I've seen others in bad situations. And so I think remembering to love as much as we can is important. Now, I think one of the things that we should not do is sort of take the stance of Peter and say, hey, I'm able to do so much more than, I think I can handle, where you're just kind of portraying yourself as a really strong person. And I don't think that's what God really wants us to do all the time. Just because, it's interesting, one, that we are just left here. And that's a little bit dramatic, but, we're here with God, for one. But because we still have to, go through the different trials of the world, I think one thing that God is looking for us to do is to completely rely on Him. And one thing that He told Paul was that His power, God's power, is made perfect through weakness. And so I think one of the things that we need to do is sort of admit that, hey, I do not know what to do, or hey, this person is stronger, or this situation is bigger, or the devil is stronger, or different things like that. Of course, God is the ultimate strong being. He created everything, but still we face different trials that I think, taking more of a humility standpoint, that hey, these situations are bigger than us. I think that can be helpful. Now, I don't think that's a full answer, just hey, stop right there, end of the video, let's all just do that. Well, I think definitely spending time in God's word is obviously the generic answer that everyone will say. But I think it's so important because, we can be getting attacked, or we can just be, mentally sort of punished in some way. And, it could be by the devil, or, just by our own thoughts, or, different situations. And so one of the things I think is so important is that, realizing that light is better than darkness. I think many of us, think that the answer is, let me repay evil for evil, or let me, do evil myself, sin in some way, because that will bring the answer. And I think maybe if there wasn't a God or something, that some of these answers could possibly work out. But at the same time, that's just a theory. The reality is that God has set up the world to be according to His will. And so just because we think that this certain solution will bring an answer to my problem, which is, again, temporary, I think that, one of the things that we need to do is just, take a step back and say, God's got this situation. Now, I think I've been in different situations that can be uncomfortable. I think that there are different situations that make your mind go 200%. I think there are different situations that, make us, kind of very anxious, or just, unsettled. I think sometimes, I know for me, I feel like, hey, I want to solve this problem, like, God, take a step back, I'll do this, God. But, the answer that I would think of is not going to produce what God's will is, or what the best solution is, And so I think that's one thing that we need to realize, is that as much as we can, do that. I think that, there are different situations that, can press on us, that, we may not necessarily make the right choice. I do think there's grace for that, but at the same time, God does not want us to sin when we are trying to solve a different problem that we're having, or some sort of situation that we may be in. And so, I love how Jesus showed the example of embracing the fear, embracing death, instead of just, I think this is more coming from my spirit, not my flesh, but, embracing the destructiveness of the situation in order for God to bring, some sort of answer. Now, the answer may not be exactly what we want, I know some people choose to get that divorce. I know some people choose to, quit that job. I know some people may choose to, make some sort of drastic change. Now, I don't believe in divorce happening in every situation. I don't believe quitting, like the job scenario, is the answer in all the situations. Just because one of the things that I've noticed is that it doesn't fully matter where you go on this earth. I made a space video one time. It was like a short. And one of the things that God said was that, hey, if people make their nest up in the stars, that God will find them from there and bring them down. And so that example basically says that it doesn't really matter where we go. We can't really bypass our earthly test or trial that we may go through. Now, I do believe God is definitely gracious and merciful, but at the same time, there are some things that, we do face that can be hard, where we're asking God, hey, God, can you, help in this situation? But he may be giving you the answer of, I want you to kind of go through this situation until you receive the answer that, God is going to give us. And so that's one of the things that I wanted to say. Keeping our eyes on heaven, I think, is a great, idea. I think, the devil is trying to twist us to think that maybe earth is heaven, or maybe think that, hey, something is not right with the whole Bible story. Maybe it's a lie. Maybe we should doubt it. But, I love the idea of heaven. I love the idea of God wiping away every tear. I love the idea of God, removing pain, removing sorrow, removing suffering, and I think there are many aspects of this life today that I do enjoy, but yet there are still some sin problems that are going on that I think, kind of put a damper on, the fact that, the wonderful things of this life, going to Mount Rainier, climbing the Mount Rainier summit, or going to Mount Everest, how great that is. But yet we know that sometimes people die on those mountains. And so I think that, that reminds me of kind of the whole book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. I think there are many situations that aren't necessarily small, but one of the things that Jesus wants us to try to do, even though I do think this is sometimes hard, I think sometimes God or whatever, the situation that it is, the circumstances, may not let our heart fully rest in, just not caring at all. I think that, it's great. I think some people do try to kind of have that hard heart where like, they're like, oh, I don't care about anything in my life. I don't care if, this happens or that happens. Like, no, I think we all do care a little bit, maybe not all of us, but I think there are many things that do poke at us. And so one of the things that I think we should try to do is not sweat the small stuff. And, I think definitely keeping the small stuff small and not letting it grow into a big thing, and I think that one of the things that can help us or hurt us is either letting it go or starting to worry about it. Worrying can really magnify the situation. And I think, sometimes God tests our trust in him. And so that's one of the things that, I think that, definitely keeping our eyes on heaven, keeping our eyes on the things that, can do us harm rather than good, is worrying about the situation that we're in. And so anyway, thanks so much for checking out this podcast and video. Hopefully this was helpful to someone, and I will talk to you on the next one. See ya.